Hi, Dr. Yass here. In this video, we're going to discuss an issue which I think is progressively growing in nature, primarily due to the use of technology, and that is the idea of migraine headaches. You know it must be a pretty big issue when you start to see lots of commercials for different drugs promoted to address migraine headaches. When they're selling drugs, that means that they feel that the population has grown substantially enough to warrant researching and developing of the drugs. That's how you know something has grown in popularity or size, right? So migraine headaches is a big issue. I believe that the growth is associated with technology because if you look at these commercials, there's no real explanation of the etiology. One commercial talks about some weird thing that happens in the brain with neurotransmitters and all this other stuff, but it really makes no sense. It's just a stab in the dark at what's causing it. They really don't have an understanding, which is why they give you medication, which is an attempt to mask the experience of the migraine without ever addressing its cause. If you don't know the cause, you can only address a symptom by masking the symptom, which is what drugs do. But tomorrow it could come back, and I think for most people of my years of experience with pain, and I'm sure migraines are just the same, the fear that it could come back tomorrow is a fairly scary premise and can lead to depression and hopelessness and all these other negative emotions, not relating to the pain or the headache itself, but the fear that it could come back and the unknowing nature of when or how intense it might come back, right? So that's what's creating all the apprehension. Usually there's no direct association with the pain itself. It's just the idea of this could come back, it could come back intensely, and I don't know when. So that's scary. And so what alternatives do you have? Virtually none. So you just take medication. Jesus, when my mother was alive, God rest her soul, she had migraine headaches, and there was Imitrex and Furacet. That's it. 2 drugs, and that's all she could take. And unfortunately, it was before I became who I am now, or else she would have had migraine headaches at the time. But I do remember when she had them, how horrible it was. She had to go into bed. It had to be dark. She couldn't have any contact with anybody. Terrible, terrible situation. And even back then, this is 30, 40 years ago, right? It was still just drugs. They just tried to make the drugs a little fancier. Now it's injectable. You still got the Botox bullshit out there. But again, nothing's designed to look at a cause. Now, there might be causes. I mean, certainly the most fearful causes are things like a tumor, hematoma. I mean, there are things that can lead to headaches, and certainly with the extensive and aggressive nature of the symptom, you certainly want to check this out and be cleared by a doctor that there's no cancer or any other type of thing going on, right? Clearly, meningitis, there are terrible things that can lead to headaches. But once we get beyond that, then you get to the point, well, maybe it's allergy-based, and certainly that's a possibility, and you want to try to... The key to understanding causes is to really look at the surrounding issues associated with the symptoms. So you're getting this headache, but can you find something that's common to all the episodes? So let's say you hear that there's a high amount of hay fever coming, and then you get the migraine headache, and then 3 weeks later, there's a high amount of hay fever, and you get the headache. Okay, so now you're starting to associate your headache with a high level of hay fever exacerbation, right? So maybe that's the answer. But my opinion, and I have treated many people with migraine headaches, cluster headaches, all these types of headaches, is that it's postural in nature. And so I wanted to point to this idea, and going back to this idea, so why is it increasing so much? Well, with the advent of technology, everybody is on a cell phone or an iPad, and they're always looking down. And what that creates is something called a forward head posture. And this is kind of an example of forward head posture. And if you're having migraine headaches and you look like one of these 2 people, now there's an attempt to associate your headaches to something other than the symptom itself. So here you would see that the ear is directly over the shoulder, and so the weight of the head is supported by the cervical spine. Here the guy has begun to creep forward because he just keeps looking at his iPad or his iPhone or her iPad or her iPhone, and her head is moved forward of the center line of the shoulder. That means that there's now a weight, the weight of the head, in front of the spine. That weight must be picked up by muscles, and that's muscles in the back of the neck that attach from the shoulder blade to the upper cervical region and even the skull itself. Here's the extreme case. Now, in this case, what you've seen, which is so interesting from a technological experience, from my experience, is that if you look at the cervical spine, it's 7 vertebrae that then are concave, meaning that they're caved in, and then it switches to the thoracic spine, which is convex, rounded, hunched here. Here's a case where if you look very carefully, there's only 3 or 4 of the vertebrae which are concave. The rest have now become convex. So what's happened in this particular person's case is that they don't have the full cervical spine vertebrae available for motion of the neck. They only have 3 or 4. They've actually reversed the curve. What should be concave is now convex. It's now part of the thoracic spine. This is a person who has very, very little neck motion. They can't look around, they can't look up, and they might be having neck pain as well as this headache, this migraine headache. So if you fall into one of these 2 categories, maybe there is a solution. Maybe there is a cause to your migraine headache, and it should be looked into. Because anytime you can establish a cause or resolve a cause, you resolve the need for the distress of the tissue to elicit the symptom, which in this case is a migraine headache. All right, so hopefully everyone's got this. Normal posture, the beginnings of forward head posture, extreme forward head posture. I want to now take you to, if you see this, what's happening in the back, upper back and the neck that would lead to the migraine headache. So we're going to put this down for a second. And now we're just going to switch to this picture here. And here is our head, and here are the shoulder blades, and here are the muscles that connect them. So here is the line of the shoulder blade, and here is the upper trapezius muscle. And this upper trapezius muscle, if you can see, actually attaches to the skull at the greater occipital protuberance. And the skull has what is known as periosteum. All bones have connective tissue surrounding them. And that's because muscle cannot actually attach into a bone. It would be impossible. It has to connect into the connective tissue that surrounds the bone. That's how muscle connects and tendons connect the bone. It's not the bone, it's the periosteum. Well, if I was to pull on the periosteum here, it could create pain anywhere around the skull, which is why you could have the cause of this creating pain at the front of it, any place on your face or any place in the skull, because you have a uniform piece of connective tissue surrounding the skull, periosteum. And the muscle, the upper trap, is attached into it. On the other side, well, it's a little hard to see, but you have something called the levator scapula, which runs up. Also, it's actually, if you were to reflect this back, it would be sitting here as well. And it attaches from the shoulder blade to the upper cervical region. So these are the 2 primary muscles, the levator scapula and the upper trap, that are responsible for supporting your head. Well, if you were to put your head down looking at your iPad or your cell phone and creating this excessive load, these muscles can only go so far unless you condition the appropriate muscles, and they're going to strain. And when they strain, they pull excessively. When they pull excessively, they can ignite the pain receptors that are in the periosteum, giving you the migraine headache. So here's the connection, both the postural connection and the muscular connection to why many people are getting migraine headaches. When you talk about it being postural, it's only postural in the sense that not the posture is the cause, but it's the representation of the cause, which is a load being created due to an activity that's being done so excessively that the muscles are not conditioned to handle, and you end up causing them to strain and pull on the skull and the upper cervical region. Now, let's look at this muscle here. This is the lower trapezius muscle. So let's say that this is rising because the head is being pulled forward, and these muscles connect the head to the shoulder blade. We would need to stop this forward head posture. We would need to pull the shoulder blade down, and because of its connection, it would pull the head back so that it's, again, over the shoulder and supported by the cervical spine. This would be the muscle you would need to strain, which is the lower trapezius muscle. And the muscles that run between the shoulder blade and the spine will help to stabilize the shoulder blade and prevent it from rising as well. Those are the mid-traps and rhomboids. So my position to you is that if you have a migraine headache, why not, especially if you present with the posture, a forward head posture, why not attempt to resolve it through strengthening? The reason you won't is because you've never even heard what I just told you before. Nobody's talked about the idea that it's muscular. No one's even considered that you have an actual cause that could be addressed. They just want to address the symptoms. But here is the opportunity to understand there is a cause. It's muscular. And muscular causes can be easily resolved if you understand that it's muscular, if you understand which muscles have to be strengthened and how to strengthen them with the appropriate exercise and the use of progressive resistance. Everything I've just described is at the core of the Yass method. The Yass method sits outside the medical system. I have a doctorate in physical therapy. You can ignore that. It has nothing to do with what I do. What I do is self-taught, self-designed, after I got my degree and recognized it was so inept, so incapable of helping me to understand the cause of symptoms, which in more than 98% of cases is muscular. So I developed this system. I've personally been lifting weights for 35 years. I taught myself the biomechanics of physics, of weightlifting. I understand kinetics and kinematics, how bones move in joints, how muscles make the bones move in joints. All this stuff was self-taught to the point where now I analyze things, understand the cause, and can help you resolve them. So if this is starting to make sense to you, and now for the first time you're saying, oh my God, maybe there is a reason I'm getting these migraine headaches, I would suggest you think about contacting me. We could discuss it further. If you want to contact me, you can contact me by email at drmitch@mitchellyass.com, DRMITCH, at MITCHELLYASS.com. If you'd like to make a Skype or Zoom appointment so that I can evaluate you, assuming that it turns out that what I'm saying is correct, I'll see your posture, I'll look at movement, all these types of things, then I will demonstrate the series of exercises. You will perform them under my supervision. The sessions are videotaped, so you have that going forward. We do 4-week follow-ups to make sure you're doing this correctly, and you will be able to resolve the cause of your migraine headaches, stopping them from occurring anymore in the future. If you like this video, it's making sense to you, please give it a thumbs up. If you like my YouTube channel, Dr. Mitchell Yass, please subscribe so you can get notifications when new videos are added, such as this type of video. I discuss a wide range of issues related to my YouTube channel, all different areas of pain or other types of symptoms. I discuss muscle building, strength training, lots of different areas, functionality, all the types of things that relate to living a pain-free, fully functional life. That's what the Yass method is for. It is here. I developed it. I believe that I'm just a vehicle for people to get the information. My responsibility is to get it out there and make it available and help people eventually get to the point where they can live their lives fully without pain. That's what the Yass method is here for. That's what I offer to you. For now, this is Dr. Mitchell Yass wishing you a pain-free, fully functional life. Bye-bye for now.